Today, I am super excited because we're going to be checking out my brand new Omega Ampworks Granophyre. So for anyone that's not familiar with Omega, they are a relatively new company. They were started by Mike, who is Mick Thompson from Slipknot's guitar tech. And I believe, although I could be mistaken, that Mick Thompson has had some input on some of the voicings and sounds of the amplifiers. And they do modern high gain metal. Now the Granophyre is a 1-channel, 100-watt, although I think there's a 50-watt version you can request, amplifier. And it just does one thing, and it does it really well. Modern gain tones. Now, before I get into how the amp sounds and its features, I was waiting for this amp for a while. I sold my Cali. I realized, as much as I liked my old Cali and stuff like that, where I feel really at home is with American voiced amplifiers. And this does that, but it refines it in a way and adds things that a lot of American voiced amplifiers were missing. And every year I had tried it at NAMM and compared it to the Obsidian that they had there, their other flagship amplifier, I kept coming back to this Granophyre. I kept being haunted by it. And then Neural came out with that plug-in of it. And I just wanted that sound, but I couldn't really get it out of anything that I had. So I had to order it. Now, when you order an amplifier from Omega, they build it for you. It takes a few months. They ship it out to you. Unfortunately, COVID had different plans. COVID has been wreaking havoc on the manufacturing industry and really hitting the guitar industry hard. And last year, I believe the company that makes the power transformers, not just for Omega, but for a bunch of other companies like Mesa, went out of business. And this left all these companies scrambling to get their power transformer needs met. They needed their exact specifications, their power transformers made exactly how they needed them for their amplifiers. And all of a sudden, all these companies were looking everywhere at once and nobody could find them. So I ended up waiting a lot longer for this amplifier.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
But it's okay. I'm fine. I'm okay now. I have it now. And I can tell you it was definitely worth the wait. So what is the Granophyre? What makes it so special? Well, it has a low end that I can only compare to a dual rectifier. It has that big, clean low end. But the difference is this stays tight. You have a big low end and it's very clean and not saturated, but it's not muddy or overbearing or in need of a boost like you would have on a Mesa dual rectifier. Now the top end is definitely more saturated than a Mesa dual rec, but also less fizzy. It feels a lot more like a 5150, but a little drier. Like it's not quite as saturated as you get on a 5150. It's kind of a little less, a little drier, definitely more than a Mesa. It kind of sits in that butter zone because it's exactly as much saturation as you'd need on the top end before it starts getting harsh or fizzy or oversaturated for when you start stacking tracks inside of a mix. Now the mid-range on this thing is where it starts getting really special. I think that they started to take some ideas and some cues from European amp makers. Like the only thing I can really compare it to that I've had experience with is it sounds like an Engel kind of mid-range, or even like the purple channel on a rev generator, like a very present mid-range, but also very smooth. Like the more you turn it up, the more it kind of pokes out and gets aggressive, but it never gets like harsh or honky. It's always kind of buttery, if that makes sense. And they have that in spades in this amplifier, and it just adds a whole nother element to this that I think makes the amplifier as good as it is. Now, there are a few other really cool ideas in here. There's a high and low gain mode. It does exactly what it says. It basically just drops the amplifier from super high gain to more of a kind of crunch. And that crunch is, you could use it for rock, blues, or you could just hit that channel with an overdrive. Although I am now thoroughly convinced this amplifier needs no overdrive. Even with my 7-string and drop A, it's fine. There's a voicing switch, and now the voicing switch in the down position is more of a mid-forward, kind of more modern. That's where I like it sound. But when you flip it up, it goes to more of a scooped sound, and it almost sounds more old school. It kind of sounds like something from the late 90s to early 2000s, and that's awesome to be able to get old school kind of metal, new metal tones at the flip of a switch. It has a really powerful EQ section. It's nothing like you'd find on, say, like a dual rectifier where you're moving everything around and it's only changing in small increments or you're not even noticing much change. This EQ is very powerful and you can dial in a lot of good tones with it. It has a detail and depth controls, which are your resonance and presence controls. Those are very powerful for helping to shape the tone of this and really match it with your cabinet and really make your tone exactly what you want it to be. Full, lush, but still tight and aggressive without being harsh. And then it also has a really cool feature that I don't think I've ever really seen on many other one-channel amplifiers, even some multi-channel amplifiers that could benefit from it. Even though it's only one channel, it has 2-level controls. It has a master volume and then a channel level. Now, why would you need a channel level and a master volume when it's only one channel? Well, there's 2 really good reasons, and I think it's a great idea. One, you can get your preamp to saturate exactly where you want and get it to its sweet spot, and then you can turn down the master. That way you're not blowing out your windows and making all your neighbors pissed off at you. But 2, you can dial that in with the power amp to find the sweet spot of how it hits the power amp. And I'm going to play around with it in the out of mix and you're going to see, but there's a sweet spot, around noon, a little past noon, where it's hitting your power amp, you're using up some headroom, it's starting to compress a bit, and you're getting more fullness on the low end, and the whole mids start to kind of bloom out. Now you can go too far with that and it can get really woofy sounding if you're hitting your power amp too hard and you're just jacking the level into it. And if you go too low, it's going to be a bit thinner. There's like a magic sweet spot for just how you hit the power amp. And I think that's awesome. I wish more or even all high gain amplifiers had the ability for you to dial in how you hit your power amplifier. So that's enough of me talking and gushing about this amplifier. Let's hear it in a mix, and then we're going to hear it outside of a mix. I'm just going to play around with all the controls and features. Let's check it out. I am beyond impressed with this amplifier. This, for me, is the apex of tone. This is everything I've ever wanted out of an amplifier after years of playing different amps and liking this, but not that, or liking this amplifier for this bit, but not that. This has everything I'm looking for in a modern high gain amplifier. It has it in spades. I am so beyond impressed with this amplifier. Every time I plug it in, I can't help but smile. It just feels so good to play. It sounds amazing. Like I could just chug like an idiot on a low chord, just plugged into this amp all day. I think everyone should check these out. I think these are criminally underrated, and I hope that as Omega continues, I hope that they grow and more people try these amps out, because they are incredible and they need to be on more albums and on more stages. Thanks for watching. Stay metal.